Okey-dokey. Let's get things started for episode 13. Let's see. Okay, it's going on stream. Let's check on Twitch really quickly. Should be connected to Facebook here in a second. Wait for some people to pop in. Okay, still waiting. There's a few. There we go. And hey, Deeb, how's it going, man? Let's see. Not connecting to Facebook quite yet. Let's give it a second. Hopefully you're doing good. Same here, man. Thanks for dropping by. Can you hear me okay, Adib? I think it's going. Just want to make sure. Okay, seeming like it's kind of slow. Facebook is not connecting. Okay, it's offline. Let me go ahead and restart the chat really quickly because it's not connecting. Oh, there it goes again. Hopefully it'll connect this time. Okay, cool. Just Facebook seems to be having an issue for some reason. I know a lot of people kind of connect through that, so I want to make sure it's all good. Facebook's offline. How's it going, Ron? Raindrop? How's it going, Mosen? Seems like Facebook is not connecting for some reason, so I just wanted to give it a few more seconds. Let me see. Says it's offline, connecting again. I'm going to try to restart the stream really quickly, just to make sure. So give it a second, see if that kind of helps. Maybe just Facebook might be having an issue today. Jax, you're okay. Unfortunately, got the little kids I think outside for early break. Okay, well, it seems that Facebook is having an issue. I'm not too sure what's the deal. So it looks like we might be down some viewers today or comments, so I apologize if it's not going to be connecting. I'm not too sure how to fix that. Well, let me try to see accounts. Okay. Hopefully we'll come in. Everybody, see if that goes on. Yeah, if you guys don't mind chiming in and stuff, it looks like we're just having some problems with Facebook not connecting. Keeps going on and off, so okay, and hopefully you guys can kind of hear me. How's it going, Infinite? Good to see you, man. Yeah, it's kind of weird. It's like Facebook is trying to connect and reconnect, and so it seems to be down today or having some issues with it. So looks like we're gonna have to depend on ZBrush Live and Twitch to kind of kick back in. So the numbers will just be down lower than normal. So yeah, I closed down Facebook and I reopened it. Let me try restarting the stream yet one more time to actually see. So give me 1 second. Because it looks like it's just kind of connecting and not connecting, which... Okay, we'll just have to not worry about that. So we'll just continue. Well, welcome to episode 13. My name is Briley. My website is going to be www.bbriley.com. Thanks, Adib. Good to hear. You can also find my work on ArtStation at /Spark, and my Instagram at instagram.com/bbriley_art. Also, I'm with a good group of guys, James Kane and Martin Verhoeven. You can find us at www.wearegrim.com, where we do a lot of our different artwork kits and such. You can find some stuff within our shop. We'll be having more as we're building towards Monsterpalooza. You can find our work, just some of the work we've completed, along with About Us if you're interested. And that's James, and that's Martin and myself. And you could also, I have a shop of stuff you can buy if you're interested, busts, t-shirts and such, for fun. Also on Instagram, we have a We Are Grim, /We Are Grim on Instagram. So we appreciate any kind of, attention and loves. So that's it for that. So let's go ahead and get today started. For most of my episode, as you know, I kind of create off of scan data. Today I'm going to probably kind of create demons and stuff, but usually with demons you have like horns. So I'm going to show you guys a quick way to go about creating using vector. Not a lot of people kind of utilize it, but I'm just going to go over a quick tutorial from what I remember. So to do that, you're just going to hit the comma, come up to the project and go to miscellaneous and double click on the 3D template. And I'm not going to save right now, so I'm just going to bring that up. So it's going to wipe out whatever I had on that character. That's fine. I'm going to change the template color to white, and I'm going to turn off the floor as I don't need it. Now, with the vectors, as you can kind of see, it has it's off of a plane. It has a certain amount of height of 9 divisions right now. You can add a division here if you because it's working off of just a plane. So you have to be very aware that you're limited. I can't bring in another piece and dynamesh this together. I can't do anything specifically like that. But so you have to work within the limitations of the plane. They might be, adding, I don't know, to that. So to start out, it has the divisions. I'm just going to go down a few divisions, and I'm just going to use the move tool, and I'm just going to pull out. And as you see, it's pulling from the back of the plane as well. I'm going to go to my snake brush. I'm just going to go find the snake hook brush, and I'm going to push and pull this out. I'm trying to grab as much geometry. You can smooth this out. But for right now, I'm not really worried about the divisions. I'm going to turn off my symmetry because I want this to be the hook brush. Now on here, when you're dealing with this, you want to make sure that your surrounding planes are going to be masked. So I'm just going to kind of go ahead and mask here before I get too far. And you can kind of go up in divisions. Actually, it might kind of help if you want to have a little bit more room. So let's say, and with that masked, I'm just going to go ahead and say group mask, because I'm just going to poly group this, so I can actually hide that. And then so whatever I do there, I make sure that wherever it lines up or whatever I place that on, it's not going to have any kind of issues. I'm going to go back to where I'm just going to still be in snake hook, but I'm going to take this off symmetry, and I'm going to kind of make to where I'm doing maybe kind of like a little twisty horn. end. Okay, I could also use the in-flat brush and tweak this up a little bit and shrink down. So whatever you want to make with this, you know, I mean, we could also bring in different objects and stuff, but with the vector, it's just you're creating a brush that's just going to pull out, and you can actually hook and have undercuts and everything else. So this is a great way to kind of get a few things done and be able to pull from them again and again. I'm going to do some detail. I'm going to turn off the poly frame because I'm just going to kind of take a look at what I'm doing. I'm going to come down here and just going to make like where the horn's going to come in. Now I'm going to show you a different way that you could actually just, if you bring in the scan data or previous pieces, I'll show you that technique, but I just wanted to show you guys this in case you decide you want to kind of create your own objects you can bring in. So if you got noses or pieces, this is just another way to go about it. So I'm trying to add just some different ways for creations of characters or whatever you're used to. You guys still here? It looks like Facebook is still not connecting. That sucks. And I apologize for the different layout today. I just got a new Cintiq 22 HD, so it's widescreen, so it's kind of taking up less space on the screen. So I apologize for the loss. I didn't have time to kind of figure out a new layout, and because I wanted to showcase some of the stuff that I have up on my website in Grim, and for you guys to kind of find me if you need to, and so I have to probably redesign. So how's it going, Rye? So whatever you do, you don't have to worry about undercuts or anything else. I'm just going to be aware of how many polys. I can go up to 1 million on this. You can add more polys if you want, but a lot of people will find that since you are dealing with limited polygons from this plane you're pulling up, you're going to lose some definition as you see it starts to stretch. Another quick way to kind of do this, to add more, and this is just on anything as well, you can go into your, where's it at? Your subtool. You're going to go down to project, and if you go down a little bit layers, if you see actually I'm losing a lot of it here, you could actually just say reproject higher subdivision. So what that is going to do is going to take a lot of the polys and just redistribute them a little bit and give me well, I should have. Yeah, redistribute some of those polygons, so it should have been pulling from here to help me up on the top here. That's weird that it didn't. Let's try it one more time. Maybe it's just the fact that I need to have it all unhidden, because you should see some changes up in here. Okay, there you go. I think that's just because I had this hidden. So you're going to, I guess, unhide that. So what that does is it allows more definition to happen up in here if you're having trouble, because you are going to be, you know, depending on how far you pull these things out, it's going to change the look of it pretty interesting. So so I'm not going to make this totally fancy, I'm just showing you guys the process, and you can always add to it. Just have another tool in the wheelhouse if you need it, if you decide to go about it. I don't necessarily use this technique too often, but I just wanted to kind of show. Yeah, I know it's you know, VDM has a lot of possibilities and it's pretty sweet. I have a tendency to do where I have previous objects and I kind of kitbash them together. So that's my way. That was my way of getting around the VDM kind of thing. So, but once you have this, you can actually create it on the fly pretty easily. The problem with like right now is like I can't. I mean, I would love to bring in something I've already kind of done, or you know, add. Yeah, one more. Oh yeah, I forgot. I can't divide because I have the other part hidden. So I'm just gonna kind of finish up a few details so you guys don't get bored in here. And I'm not too sure, I haven't really tried, just thinking about it right now, I haven't tried, can you polypaint to this sucker? Never really thought about that. Maybe you could. So where you have the horn all kind of done. Okay, so let's say this is my horn. I'm happy with it. You can play with this, just... Okay. So once I have this object, and of course go down lower if you want to manipulate it just a little bit more. Okay. And again, I have a, okay, you're going to hide everything to grab it. Up within here, into your brush, I'm going to go first into the brush one. I'm going to grab like a chisel 3D. You need to actually have it be a chisel brush based on that plane. As you can see, there's going to be other ones right here. You cannot just do a regular standard brush because you will lose a lot of that function. So if you're going to go to chisel creature or chisel brush, whatever these things are that you want to use, you know, that's fine. So you can grab any one of these brushes just to kind of create this alpha. And if you see right there, there's the alpha. So what we're doing is we're going to be grabbing the information for the VDM to actually have the alpha. So you're going to go to brush, open up the create tool, and there's a lot of other more definitive tutorials you can take a look at it. And I'm just going to create multi-brush, and as you can see right there, there's my alpha created from this, just kind of, and then there's my brush up here from this. Now once this is created, I'm going to just kind of create a sphere brush, or just grab a regular sphere, make a multi-mesh, and I can turn on the symmetry. And what we're doing is we're just going to check to sit there and see if I pull this out, it's going to work. As you see right there, I have some of that left over because my brush wasn't perfect. And again, what we're seeing right here is we need to divide up fairly well to kind of get it. And then this way you can actually kind of create your VDM horns pretty quickly. Okay, so this just like allows you to kind of, you know, have this. Now, of course, I would go back in and I would clean this up, do some more definitive details into this if I'm going to keep this. And again, I need to probably divide up more to have this. So let's see if I kind of go back. How's it going, pre-drag? Let me divide it one more time. Okay, so it's 8 million, and so when I drag this out, as you can see, I have that detail. So you need to make sure whatever you're pulling onto has enough detail to pull out whatever horn you have. So you got to be careful about how much your VDM is going to be, because I could go to a lower level and just kind of create it. So once you have this done, okay, I'm going to go back, just turn off this object, and I'm going to place this. You can actually clean, however you want, you can clean this up. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to be making a brush out of, a brush icon. If you want to make it all pretty, go up to the level. I'm going to go to brush. I'm going to hold down art. I'm going to say select icon, so that's going to create the icon. And I'm just going to go to save as, and I'm going to save this wherever. Into the brush menu. Usually you just go to the brush menu so it kind of pulls into it, but I'm just going to throw this to the... Okay, so now that it's in there, horn test. So once I have that in there, then I can actually just pull this up. Now, since I copied over top of that chisel brush and you want those back, you could just kind of go back down here and just say Resettle Brushes. And if you want to just load that in, usually if you put it into the brush menu, it's going to sit there and pull that back up. But since I didn't, I'm just going to load back in that horn test button, and then that VDM's right there. So so it's all good. And if you see right here, it says 3D. You want to make sure it has that to let you know it's a 3D object. So I can actually create going from there. So I'm going to go ahead and just load up that demo head scan. Okay, turn off the floor. Alright, so now that I have this guy on here, then I can just use that medium, and I can kind of create right off of that to go from. Another way you could actually do this, if I'm going to create in horns, I'm just going to go ahead and just load in previous skin ram horn that I had. I did like a really quick breakdown of it. You know, I'd even clean it up just to show you. Just in my levels, just like I normally do. So what you could also is just, if I'm going to kitbash, just bring in that horn, go down to deformation, unify, just to bring it into my scene, and then shrink it down to whatever I need it to be. Say I want to kind of have it go in front of the head. Okay. And go from there. Because again, I can manipulate this as much as I want. Go to Subtool Master, and then I could just do Mirror, and then because those have the subdivision on it, it's going to go through and subdivide as well. So this is two different ways you can kind of create objects. Again, like I said, I've shown you guys about kitbash and a lot of this. Okay, it did not work. Okay, it screwed it up here. For some reason, I'm just going to go ahead and that's weird. Go down here, modify, and delete hidden. Sometimes it does that. I don't. It's kind of odd. So let's see where we're at. Let's try this again. Subtool Master. Mirror. And let's check the. Before I do this, let's actually check the floor and see where we're at. So here's Z. That's going to be X, and then that's Y. So let's try this again. It should mirror. And you could, if you're ever kind of having problems with it, you could always just append as a separate tool, because then you can actually see where it's kind of going. Okay, and it's got lost up there. So it's on X. Let's go ahead and delete this again. Go down here and let's go to deformation and unify, and let's just change the size of this through the deformation, and then move it straight up to here. Okay, and then let's try the subtool again, mirror, and append as well. See if the unify brings it back together. Doesn't. Okay. So what you could also do when you're having problems like this, you could also switch to mirror and weld. It has levels on it, so you could either freeze, try the mirror and the weld. So what's happening, it looks like it's off on the placements of this one. So let's try to reset the gizmo. Yeah, I mean, pre-drag is kind of like, this is where sometimes you have problems with the mirroring and a couple of other things. So let's just try to set this to home, figure where that's at. And then Subtool Master. And this is where sometimes you're kind of like, okay, what's going on? Okay, so it's up in here. So let's go to this one, and let's try Subtool, Mirror, and that axis. There we go. Okay, so sometimes this gets kind of confused. The gizmo, you have to kind of reset, figure out where it's going. A lot of times switching to a different thing will help. There's also a plugin called, where are you at? Ryan's Tools. It's kind of great. It has things in here as well that you could try to do mirror and weld and set. So you can, I would probably suggest you kind of taking a look at that. But I'm just going to go ahead and merge down And what this is going to do is going to go through my subtool levels and bring that back together. And then I can grab these, and let me turn off my floor. And then I can move these. If you turn on symmetry, just move that around. And we're all set on this. Okay. So then that way I can kind of play with this as well. Now, that was a little bit more of a problem than I wanted to. But yeah, Max actually, pre-drag has the Reset X form. It's pretty much what I would love to have right now. That's what I was trying to do with the Unify. Unify is close to it. So yeah, sometimes it's kind of funky. But you know, like I said, there's plenty of ways to play with this. So what I'm doing for just getting some of these horns in there, depends if you want to play with the VDM. The reason I like to have some of the horns separated rather than going to that one brush on this character and start putting my horns into it is because it allows me to mix and match and move those pretty quickly. Once you do this, it's part of that. It's part of the geometry. It's just like you've dynameshed and gone through the whole process. So I still kind of have a tendency to kitbash this way, even minus some of the issues that I was having, because then I can kind of push and pull these around, figure out where I want to place them, and then keep moving. And if I want to make, you know, duplicates, I could just easily, you know, or even like say I want to flip these around. As I'm creating, I can quickly do that, scale, and it just allows me to kind of think about my design rather than being stuck to anything specific. Or, you know, go back if this was totally stuck and I'm like, you know what, I'm not really digging that direction, so maybe I just want to sit there and have these a little bit more forward, or hell, even start to kind of, you know, kick into the eye. I'm able to do that. Now, not saying that you know, using the vector displacement. So let's say if we go in here, let's say, you know, do I want to use a nose, you know, or using these things to kind of create, or hell, even giving him a mouth, you know, to play around. You can do that. The problem with and this might be kind of good to kind of do a quick open mouth if you have a couple of them, or to place teeth, and it's your call on how you want to kind of get that to go. Kind of looks silly right now, but you can, or if you're saying I want to try like more of an elf ear, or intermix with some of those different ears, because when you're doing that, it kind of starts to mess up. You know, you have some of the geometry that can get really changed. It pulls into the geometry that you have underneath, so that's kind of interesting, to where it gives me kind of a mistake or something to where I can play off of that and give me some design elements that I wasn't really expecting. So he's got kind of like a weird triple ear demon, you know, that I can kind of play around with. So by doing this, you can kind of get some really happy accidents and stuff. So, hey Sante, thanks for joining. Derp face, my son Infinite was just telling me about the derp face. I just got a hold of the Cintiq 22 HD, not the touch version, and I'm getting used to it. It's changed the way I am sculpting, and actually my left shoulder starting to bother me because I'm trying to do the placement of, you know, how I want this to be in, and it's got to get used to it. And it's important to really make sure you feel proper. You have your, you know, your back is working pretty well. So I'm still trying to shift and figure out where I need to sit. So if I'm going to be working on this guy, demons are usually, guys, to where it's based off of humans. So a lot of times they have all, remember, the different elements, the eyes, the ears, the senses that I was talking about, where usually with aliens we were playing with a little bit of different things. Now I'm aware of that other horn in here that I have right now, but I'm going to quickly just kind of play with some of these. And I was talking about having that chisel. Okay, maybe try this chisel to where, let's go up a little bit to where we bring in some, you know, you can try a couple different things to just start out. So like, let's say if I want to kind of use this just or hell, even if we do want to try bringing in that horn, it's kind of interesting. So try it at a couple different angles. This one looks like it's based on the normal of the face, so you might have to kind of play with it a little bit, or maybe intermix something to where, now I don't want to go too crazy with these kind of horns, but we can kind of start playing with it and kind of get some interesting directions pretty quickly to test out. Now that I have that ear, maybe I want to kind of go to the, you know, move this horn up. And again, I'm playing around. I'm just kind of looking for form and shape, and not to say that this is the exact thing, but it gives me something to mess around with. So I'm kind of like, well, he's kind of alien demon. He has some functionality that I like, because I can kind of see some of his eye was kind of created. So again, like I said, a lot of times when I create, I'm looking towards the eyes first. I kind of want to define how the character looks by the eye, and then that will set the mood of, you know, is he good, is he evil. Usually with demons, like I said, you're going to be bringing in some of the human elements, so I definitely want to have the eye, but maybe I'm going to bring in to where he's a little bit more squinty, maybe not sure, widen his face down a little bit, give him more. And this is sort of changing up my flow of how I'm working, because it's like I was playing around with a lot of the different mediums and showing you guys that. So let me get back into kind of, oops. I gotta get the shape going first. So he's kind of looking almost like goat. And because it doesn't have any teeth yet, or like, you know, I need to play with some of the shape, I've got to decide what I want to do with them. So let me bring in a little bit more his ear. Maybe I connect his ear, because again, usually what I've been doing, guys, is I've been looking for the flow, some of the different things that interest me, and kind of, you know, make sure that the character is kind of working. I'm going to take out that little hat. And maybe widen some of this. Now again, he's carrying a lot of weight on top of his head with, if I decided to do those horns. Hell, I might even add another set of horns. But what I need to decide is like how thick this might kind of go, because again, this is, you know, Hellboy has a very thick neck. He's very powerful, because that will define his body. I'll be probably starting to like go into where I'm going to be doing a full character. So a lot of times when you're doing the head, it's going to define the look of the rest of the character. It kind of gives you ideas, quick snapshots of how you might want to handle that, because of the shape of the neck and the head. And, you know, is this character a brute? Is this character intelligent? Again, you know, because if I want to make him a warrior, you know, I do the Hellboy chin, you know what I mean? And then all of a sudden he starts to look a little bit more, less, you know, this looks more like Loki, you know what I mean? Like kind of devilish, just by the quick general forms, you know what I mean? But if I sit there and I kind of thicken out his neck, then all of a sudden he becomes more of a warrior, you know? Even because his neck could be thin on this backside, but just having some of that thickness in there, he looks a lot more powerful, because you're boosting up some of the different shapes on here. Now if I do that from the front, then yeah, I'm going to definitely need to strengthen his back and everything else. Yeah, intelligent thick neck. I mean, it's sort of kind of pre-drag is kind of, you're playing up the character. The characters, I mean, a lot of that say it's like don't judge a book by its cover, but that's what you do in the character design. You're kind of giving, by the design, the silhouette, what is going to be the character's assets, and you know, so usually you're not going to see like a intelligent brute, you know, or if I do like, you know, where he's got like a bigger jaw, you know what I mean. That's definitely by doing that crow magnum, I want to say crow magnum jaw, but it's like the lower brute jaw, kind of like where his teeth come up underneath. That kind of changes his look, and you can have, you know, fun however you want to do it. I mean, right now maybe I might thicken up that neck, but I'm not quite done with my design up here. So let's, before I start kind of really fleshing out some of those shapes, let's go in here and let me turn my dynamic. Let's define up some of the different shapes and stuff of the head, because this is going to define a lot of that detail, the direction. So I'm going to use that little VDM, whatever thing, that piece that comes with ZBrush, and I'm going to define out a little bit more of my look. Actually kind of like the little, let's give him a little bit more butt chin. Let's define out his nose area. Gonna bring in some sharp hits, and define out his jaw. Sorry, I gotta turn on some incense. The dog smell's getting to me. And then I need to start figuring out my placements of there. Now, I could do where I did the one character where I take out the eyes entirely, or, you know, make them wider, larger. You know, you could just kind of quickly just play out a couple different ideas with some few sweeps. Or if I want to kind of use what I was doing there, you know, do a couple moves, see what I'm liking, see what I don't like. Do I want to push this in? So just try out a couple before you really just say this is going to be the design. Try out a few things and see what you kind of like. And then go up. If you're ever wanting to kind of make it a little bit, use the pinch tool. That's what I use the pinch tool a lot. A lot of times I use that to open and close the eyes. In flat I'll use as well in case I want to make a little bit more weight. So okay. And again, I'm not too sure what I'm doing. You mean, it's sort of I'm just trying out a few things, and I'm not quite. I just know I'm doing a demon-esque thing with, and I was just going off because I wanted to show you guys some of the different ways to approach objects, or when you're thinking. So. Okay, but I am kind of liking some of this sharp upper eyebrows. So let's define out some of those. And again, I think for some of you that have been kind of like you know jumping into this these episodes, a lot of times when I'm trying to create the characters, I want to take a look at a few different material kind of hits. So just like if I'm doing a character, I want to have like flesh, bone, metal, cloth, that kind of stuff. You want to try to bring in some different elements with, excuse me, even the creatures that you're doing. Try to think of elements as well. The fact that you want to have something soft and organic against something hard. and hard surface and flat areas to rest your eye, because again, if it's too busy, then we're going to have some problems where your eye's just going to be, it's all over the place. It's too much stuff to deal with. So I'm going to bring out this lower jaw just a little bit, because I think I'm going to probably try to add in some teeth. So I'm just kind of and yeah, he looks kind of silly right now, kind of a smirk. So let's go ahead and just append in. I mean, you could use like a cone if you want, because it's pretty much a. I'm just going to use a sphere. Again, whatever general geometry piece that you kind of like, but a sphere, you know, gives me quite a few different options. Well, hell, I mean, let's just use this right here. Let's say if I'm going to be using it as the eye for right now, because I do want to have whatever I'm going to be doing with the eye, even if we're not going to see that, I want to kind of have my iris or my eyeball to play around with, to sit there and see how I might handle the whole shape. And then again, subtool master, mirror, just merge it into one, and then that way you can make sure you hit symmetry, and then I can kind of move this just a little bit to place. Okay, so let's append. Well, hell, let's just make a duplicate since we already have those on a different size. Now you got to be careful, guys, whenever you are moving things together. You don't crisscross them. Okay, a lot of times that kind of will cause issues, and especially when you're dynameshing pieces together. So I'm just gonna make them small, and I'm just using in the Y here to kind of give me some teeth. And again, I'm just thinking really quickly, simple shapes, because I'm looking for my forms. I'm looking for just some of the different ideas and stuff. But you know, and you can add in a few of those teeth details. So let's say if he's got so, okay. And again, depending how sharp, how long, where I place those, that's really going to kind of, you know, change the look of this guy. So let's say if I just want to go down a little bit here, but now let's say if I want to have bottom jaws or bottom teeth, then I can then build my mouth accordingly. I might have to kind of bring out my jaw section here to kind of protrude, and then I can use that to kind of pull in to build a little mouth. And again, once I have those teeth, I'm just going to make a duplicate, and let's just say I'm going to make them a little bit smaller. And just duplicate this. Again, I'm just trying to, and you can easily quickly just change the shapes. And use the move tools to kind of, okay. So just play with it. Don't worry about it. You're testing out. Doesn't mean you're going to use it. I'm just throwing it on the wall and seeing if it sticks, seeing what works, see what I don't play with, and then take it from it. So yeah, Dynameshing will merge them together as one, and then you can kind of reset it up. It just depends on what you're in. So right now these are separate subtools, so I can intermix them, but I was warning when you're kind of keeping them separate. You just want to be aware of that. I usually just try not to crisscross stuff, personally. So now that I've got some of those things going on, I'm going to kind of start to flesh out the eyes again, because this is, like I said, my way of thinking of the character. It's detailing it out. So I do want to kind of keep some of the human elements. So let's detail the lower eyelid. Let's sink it back a little bit to kind of make it feel like it's sitting around that eyeball that I put in there. Okay. And let's kind of give it some heavier weight over here to kind of make it feel like it's part of this little section. So I'm connecting that little, whatever, one big ash eyebrow section here. That could be like some kind of twisting horn coming out. And if I'm going to make this kind of bone, then I might kind of bring in some of those elements that change. I don't know if I really like that shape of the eye. It's looking a little bit too nice, so I'm going to try to make it a little bit more evil maybe. Let's take out those eyeballs for a second to see. And a lot of times when you're dealing with demons or horns or whatever, you just try to twist them up a little bit, make them, you know, they don't have to be perfect. So even though I started with that, I'm trying to get some of those shapes in there. I'm going to make this a little bit thinner down here into the form because I'm going towards that point to this chin. So I'm actually kind of using a lot of this directional line, this horn. So if you see from this horn and it's kind of leading me back, and I'm kind of picking up on this design, so I can play with this just a little bit more. If I do that, I might have to kind of drop down some of that. Okay. Let me hold off on the eyes for a second and flesh out this nose. Let's bring my nose in just a little bit more so I can kind of start changing the flow of his face. Having that nose, having all like this snarl to the, you know, a lot of the muscles up in the face, start to make him feel a little bit more evil. I'm going to I think it's the thing is like his eyes feel a little bit too forward. Either I'm going to make him a little bit more forward like that so he looks kind of funky, or set him back a little bit more. So let's try, and all I'm doing, guys, is I'm just pushing and pulling using the move tool, okay? So I'm just kind of recessing those eyes back into the forehead, and I'm going to bring the cheek bone to kind of pick up from this design. So I'm kind of sweeping down and back up to the forehead. And okay. And it stinks that Facebook didn't pick up. So yeah, I mean, it's sort of you can pick into different styles. Because I was doing the skins doesn't mean I have to stick more towards the realistic. I can go into a little bit more orcish, warlock, and all that kind of stuff. I can play with a lot of these different things. Again, Polypaint's going to really define this. Right now I'm just trying to find the character, so I don't know where he's going to set. I think, let's play with the back of his head. I'll bring the head back in. And if I go red, Hellboy, I mean, he's got a pretty big Adam's apple here. So I don't think I necessarily want to keep him go too cartoony kind of stuff, but I'm going to probably do the typical red, maybe a little bit pink. So let's define up his face. I have these. Remember that little VDM that had that little ridging? So let's go ahead and pick up some of these. Let's do like sharpen these sections here and separate. So because I just swiped that down really quickly, it's giving me ideas to kind of play with the rest of it. And then start getting some of the horns in and how they're going to set. Now, I should have, or what I would normally do is I would make a really badass, take the time with the horn to kind of define it out a little bit more. You know, I was just showing you guys that the scan that I had of the ram horn wasn't very good. So, but I just wanted to show you just kind of, I'm getting the idea. So what I would probably do is detail the hell out of this one, whatever horn I have, because so far I'm not really changing too much of this one. And then after I get that detail, then I could come in here and say, okay, this is going to be, you know, a little bit more, I have all the detail of the one horn, and then I make a duplicate of it, and then I can change it up after I have that detail onto it. So if I kind of, you know, say I'm going to really make that super, you know, thick, I might have to kind of then go back to the head. So I got to be careful about how I handle this intersection. So if I want to kind of keep this the neckline, I might just start bringing some of the skin there. But if I decide to add, you know, a lot more of that skin fold up top to kind of make sure that that horn, that movie's escaping me. The red demon that has huge horns. And if you notice in the head, it was like a small face and it had these huge sections. Now, what I could also do, I can't think of it, sorry. Let me see. I appreciate you checking it out, man. Thank you, I appreciate it. I can't think of the movie. It's with Tom Cruise. Damn, it's gonna bug me. So let's say if I want to sit there and figure out some of this, do I want to make this a little bit more thicker? Again, I'm just gonna append, or hell, let me just grab these eyeballs again. I'm making a duplicate, and then that way I could just pull these in here, scale them up, and use this to kind of, again, this is kit bashing, guys. This is what I do a lot of times, just to kind of sit there and see if I like that direction or how I might use it. And then once I'm happy with the design, I'm finished kit bashing all this stuff together, then I can just do the Dynamesh and, you know, pull this all. So let's say I just want to bring this to where it's going down the back of the head. And I got some like the flesh to where it's kind of sticking in. Use the in-flat brush to. Okay. So again, if you want to sit there and see this a little bit, go down to your edit and then just turn up the inactive subtools. So when you put it together, excuse me, you see a lot less of the different separation. So that allows my eye to kind of then just concentrate on the form. So do I really want to bring that together? If so, you know, maybe I just define out this a little bit more to the head. Or even, now that I have that, just kind of, so it's one big forehead. Now, since I've done that, he is getting a little bit to where I have to be aware that I might have to thicken that neck to feel like he's going to hold it, right? Or build up the back of this section of the neck to make it look like, you know, make it look like he's able to hold that. Let me wipe that out a little bit, and then I can just, once I start putting in those details, then I can start fleshing out. So that's working a little bit better. Let me thin down his neck muscle just here. Okay. So when I'm putting those things together, by just tossing that back and forth in there, I can say, do I want to have those pieces in there? You know what I mean? Are those working or not? Do I want those teeth? I forgot to grab the eyes up here, so they jumped up. So, like, you know, does that work? Kind of take those in and out. It's a quick subtool that I can turn on and off. It allows my eye to sit there and get a quick update of what I'm thinking, what's not working, or what is going to work. So, it's just legend. Thank you, Infinite. It's driving me crazy. A legend. Yeah, if you take a look at it, it was just one big ass horn. And I'm kind of, you know, when I threw those horns in there, when you start doing certain demons, there's going to be certain creatures that you're going to kind of like, oh, okay, nod towards, you know. But if you look at real life, you know, you got the bulls. You're pretty much pulling the bulls from it in the direction. Now, because I already have 6 horns in here, like I could even go, you know, when I'm going to make a duplicate. What if I had 8 horns in here? You know, I mean, you can start playing, and you see right there. Now that I pull those together, that's what I was talking about. So you got to be careful. And say, maybe he has horns, or I could even take it to where I started out that from pulling in that VDM, but maybe I could just then take this, okay, and now he's just kind of like a triple horn, or I could even take it where they're kind of, you know, curling about. That is quick sweeps that can change the total direction. Like I usually tell you guys, if I'm going down the street, I'm going to take a right or a left. If I'm not too sure, I could do snapshots and try. You know, I kind of like this because it's leading my eye around. Even though it's not kind of like these horns are kind of leading my eye out, I can easily go to this one and say, well, from the side, I want to pull that one down just a little bit. Subtlety to bring, you know, your eye back down to this one. Now, again, I'd probably go back to lower level, you know, mask and then try to, so you can do that to where you're kind of sweeping around and, you know, making the horns, and then, you know, it's almost kind of like these connect. You don't want to get too crazy in your design, but you want to have like little subtle hits that kind of are leading your eye around. But as I turn, you know, I can, and I even can sit there and say that, well, on here I might want to kind of just extend that out a little bit, so it goes from here and it's kind of wrapping around, and, you know, test it out, see what's working, see what you like, see what you don't like, you know what I mean? It might work, it might not. Or pulling that forward, which makes me pull this forward, or even up, you know, so I have more of that brow forehead section. So, because I've seen too many artists, they don't try this. They just kind of, they have a set design and they kind of do A to Z, and they don't really try to explore. And the great thing about art is, like, you having the time to just explore is part of the fun. It's where you're trying to test it out, and you might get something that you really are happy with it. You know, the happy accidents that I'm looking for. I'm still going off of design elements that I like, but I'm looking for that happy accident. Okay, so I think I'm going to pull this back in a little bit. He does kind of like have a Hellboy feel to him. It's not necessarily what I'm trying to do. So I'm going to try to bring a little bit more realism, I guess I should say, into him, just to kind of flesh him out a little bit. Hey, Martin, how's it going? Mutt6096 is in. Check out his work, of course, and Grim. Thanks, man. Yeah, send me a picture of that. I want to check that out for sure. I'm trying to convince Martin and James to do one of these things too, so we can kind of have some fun checking it out. How would you create cool-looking horns? Well, I've kind of gone through a couple on this demo, Bebo, just to kind of, you know, try it out. You can do with the horns, like if you have these, if you come over here and you just make a clone of the horns, you could just take these horns, and as you actually see right there, I kind of touched at some point in time. But if you make, you know, duplicates, like I said, you have those that you can kind of, you know, intermix it. So let's say you kind of keep everything towards the front here, and then you can just push so almost like a horn within a horn, and you can kind of bury, you know, you can make tons of different horns with ones you've already had. And what I would probably suggest is that you flesh out the horn really detailed, you know, and then once I have this, as I'm mixing those two together, then I can kind of create kind of like it splits off, you know what I mean? Like I'm kit bashing these things together. And please forget that one. Or you can even take it to where you kind of go down, and because these are the levels, I can mask these out, and then I could even go to where I'm going to scale, you know, or hold down Control, guys, and just kind of blend out, so I can kind of, you know, however you want to do it. I mean, it's your imagination. So whatever horns you kind of want to create, and when you go back up, then it's, oops, that seems to have not liked something up into it. So whenever you have this problem, let's just go ahead and turn off the symmetry, you know. Oops, turn off symmetry. Okay. So somehow it kind of got spiked up in here, so it got kind of confused. But in that way, you're able to kind of say, okay, I like this one. Then you can merge this together, dynamesh it, clean it up, do whatever, and you can kind of create a whole bunch of weird stuff once you have those horns. Where am I at? Okay. So let's kind of continue and finish the sucker up. So how's it going, Dragon Med? Yeah, Adib, when you're grabbing from a scan, like I said, I showed you guys kind of how to do it in the beginning. Just slice it down the middle, just symmetry, and just set it up. Because human scan, anything from natural life is not going to be symmetrical. It's asymmetry is always in there. So just be aware. So you just go through the process. If you watch some of my earlier videos, I show you guys how to just go ahead and do that. So okay, I'm going to kind of finish off this guy. Some of the details. So I'm going to kind of come down here. And I think what I'm going to do is just kind of bring in an eyeball here again. I lost it at one point in time, so let me bring that back. Okay, and to help me separate this, I'm just going to go to a different material, guys. Go to my just M, color, fill object, and I'm going to go back, turn off M, Jax, just to kind of help me define some of, you know, to help me see those eyes in there. Okay, you can fill your eyeballs, you could actually put whatever you want into it, but I just need to sit there and, oops, need to help me see what I'm going to be kind of building around. So I'm going to kind of bring some realistic aspects back to this guy. I'm going to bring in some crow's feet to where the eye has been kind of pinching around, and flesh out some of the section of the eye ocular region of this. Okay. And I've been keeping towards just, I always kind of just do the general brushes that you guys see. I don't do anything special. I mean, I showed you guys the VDM, the vector displacement map stuff, just to kind of give you some different ones, but otherwise I'm just doing simple spheres, kit bashing stuff together, taking a look at things. And you'll see at the end when I bring back in the original head, which unfortunately I didn't do. I'll have to bring it back in again. But I forgot to make a duplicate of it. It allows you to do quite a few things quickly. Okay, I'm going to I'm building the mouth bag area to where it's going to set, and I'm going to define that lower lip a little bit more. So I'm doing a little bit of in flat to puff up, and I might have to go back into these, and I'm just going to merge them down real quickly. Okay, just so I can quickly, and if you ever want to reset, like if your gizmo's off, just go ahead and turn that off. Turn off dynamic, hold down shift and drag out, and then when you go back it just resets your gizmos back to the proper plane, rather than just kind of, I mean, I'm sure there is always a different way, but I just wanted to kind of, that's usually how I do it, to get that done pretty quickly. And I'm just going to kind of adding some flesh bits, kind of like it's been kind of, you know, cracked from the hellfires or whatever. Again, a lot of times when you're creating your character, you're just making up stuff. Okay, and I'm going to do some flat plane hits to lead your eye up and around, and kind of treat those like these are, you know, maybe these are even kind of like rocks or whatever, you know what I mean? Like it's kind of, so that's part of the, you know, when you're creating, you're just trying to make up some of the story again, and just seeing what you kind of get. It's just fun, you know, to kind of, and then once you have that BS, whatever, you kind of go, okay, I've got to carry it. Then when it's successful or you're liking it, you just kind of create the flow through the rest of the head. So whatever you did on the front, you kind of bring it to the back to do like little touches. So you might kind of say, okay, I did not mean to do color swaps. Like, you know, like, yeah, if I have some kind of rocks, you know, maybe, you know, let me smooth that out first. Okay, to where you kind of, you know, you're bringing up some of those elements of rocks or warts or however you want to sit there, and whatever that story is going to be, and then you can kind of, you know, define it, you know, and then you kind of touch it upon the neck, and then you kind of carry it to, you know, so you kind of, or what you're doing is you're just leading the eye around, just like skipping stones across the leg. So how's it going, Shakira? Welcome. Appreciate you guys showing up. I'm surprised we got many people. Facebook usually is the most, so hopefully it's working on Facebook. I linked it, so hopefully it's showing up on Facebook at least. So when you have that, guys, then you can kind of, I'm just going to kind of bring in some more of those elements, and then go back to the eye again. I'm up pretty high at 3 million. I've lost a lot of the detail because I've been pushing and pulling. I could take the time to kind of, or I would take the time normally to kind of go back in and kind of define, zebra mesh. You could also do this. Let me tool. I'm going to save as. I'm going to just save right before I do this. Okay, I'm going to go down. Remember the reproject. You're going to go down to this and just say reproject your details. Hopefully it doesn't take too long and it doesn't screw up the stream. But what it's going to do is going to kind of, you know, clean up a little bit, and or you can smooth out. Actually, it might have been. All right, can you guys still hear me? Speak up if you could hear me. All right. I just shut that down really quickly. I'm going to restart. Everybody's still here. It was projecting too much. Yeah, I figured it was freezing on the stream, so I'm going to start again. And that's the problem where you start doing some of those things. I'm That's why I just saved right before. So anytime you kind of do some of those things, guys, save. We hear voices. That's good. That way it kind of allows you to kind of stop it. Now, it probably would have finished if I kept it going, but I just didn't want to sit there and you know, waste too much time. Yeah, bad. Yeah, it's, well, I was hoping it was kind of low. It wasn't. It was only 3 million, but I guess it was good enough to mess it up. So, okay, I'm gonna dig back into here again. To find out that little. I'm just going to kind of give them like little tiny teeth. Defining out. These are the details, guys, that kind of sets it apart. Like if I want it more cartoony, I won't even touch that. If I want it a little bit more realistic, I'm going to make little nods of realistic hits like wrinkles and directional lines and anatomy. So just be aware of whatever you're trying to go for in your character. Take the time to kind of, you know. But of course, I could then go to my Polypaint and I can make it super cartoony by just going to like a flat. So color can take it back, and it'll be like a little mixture of the two together. Okay. Okay. So I will just have to deal with the fact that those might be a little bit low. So I'm going to kind of bring in some more of those flat, almost like to make them a little bit sharp, blade-like. Okay. Because again, I want to give that element of story that I'm kind of going. I'm going to separate them a little bit. Alright. Let's bring those, let's get back to the ears. The ears are kind of hidden right now. Either I can put this to where I want the ears to kind of be shown. So if I do that, I need to bring this like so. And it doesn't have to be perfect. I'm kind of trying to give some illusion like it's just rough, you know. And we could actually, on the Polypaint, we can make it to where it's like a little bit bloody, or, you know, kind of like these horns came out not too nice. It's painful. Almost like he was, you know, werewolf type of thing. Okay. So, and again, the horn is going to really, you know, all those details you're pulling. I could either start trying to bring up some of those horn details, but I think, you know, for the demo, where are we at? It's 2:15. I want to be careful about how much detail I have, so I'm just going to do a few little hits and call it done on the horns, because what I could do to hide those is I could actually just make them really dark black or whatever, and I can hide some of the details. So I'm going to do a straight hit because I'm leading your eye, or I'm trying to lead the eye of the viewer to go around, kind of like take a little roller coaster hit, roller coaster ride across the head. Yeah, save or learn it the hard way, Bish. That's right. No, I have not animated any of these characters. I have a few characters that people have talked about animating, but they never really have. I mean, for games I have, but I mean, it's not my own personal stuff. I think James, we put up on the We Are Grim site the robot, my Robo Hobo. I don't know. It's let's see, where's he at? This guy right here, the Robo Hobo. I would love to have that animated, but a lot of people are kind of like, holy crap, that'd be a lot of work, which it would be. And I really don't want to go through the hassle too, doing like a proper, because that's kitbash to hell and back, you know what I mean? I'm just putting parts and just sculpting. I wasn't really precise in a lot of my, or clean, I would say. So let's pull that back in and let's make sure that I kind of make it look like this is part of this horn, because again, I'm just kind of I was kitbashing those two together and not really, I mean, they didn't belong in the beginning, so I'm now kind of making them feel like they're one. So to do that, I'm just going to go back and forth and kind of just slowly blend. If you see right there, when you're doing this, see how the shadow or the different things, color is going to really make it a little bit more difficult to blend. So if your eye doesn't see it, then it's blended. You know what I mean? If that's what I'm pretty much trying to do. I'm just trying to, for right now, as I'm thinking about the design. Now, if I finish, like I said, finish this guy off, what I would do is I would go into Dynamesh them together, clean them up, ZBrush, do all kind of stuff to make them solid. So, but for right now, from the distance, you're kind of like, I'm just looking at the forms. Okay. So, let's just blend this line together. Okay. I'm just, again, fleshing up some of the stories, guys, that leading your eye down, a few hits, and then I'm going to kind of bring it back up. Okay. Good enough. All right. So again, you see right there, by changing the neck, that really changes the feel of the character. Just kind of makes it look like it's, you know, too bulked. So, but it's what it is it's just the subtleties. It's very little change in movement or, you know, flow of the character will make them look totally different. So, okay. Is the symmetry of the bust you're using, is it perfect? Yes, Nadib. If I have, so if you look right here, you got to make sure on the base of the ZBrush, this point hits these vertices. You see how that goes? So as long as the lowest subdivision level, if your pixel, your brush is on this point and that it's matching to the other point, that's perfect. So that's where you can do the gizmo, you can try to get it. But if you ever have problems, guys, to where you're kind of like, it's not quite working, what I suggest is you just go ahead and you make a clone of your object that you're trying to pull from, right? You turn off asymmetry and you pretty much mask one side that you want, and then you can come down here. And actually, I'm going to go, let me lower this a couple, right? I'm just going to delete higher, okay? And then you're just going to go to modify topology, and you can just say mirror and weld. Delete lower, mirror and weld. Okay, I did have multiple subdivisions. Let's see, lower res, delete higher. Okay, mirror and weld. Okay. Delete higher, delete lower. I have no subdivision levels. Mirror and weld. Thank you. Okay. So what that does is it makes sure that it's all set up. Now on here, if you look, I should then be able to hit my symmetry, and then it will be matching again. You could also, if it's still not there, you could go down to your deformation. Okay, as long as this is all good, and just do smart sim and then resim. and go up the different levels. And you want to look up in here, it says 99.160. It doesn't have to be 100% perfectity, but it has to be pretty damn close to where it will be the symmetry. So, hey Sofo, not really digging it right now. I really missed my length. The widescreen, I feel like I had tons of shit on the side. But some of the guys were telling me that I just need to get used to it. Yeah, pre-drag, I swear I hit delete high and delete lower. It looked like I didn't, but I think I was still stuck on one level when I did that. And I was also showing you guys some of the mistakes that you might make. That's how it goes. Honestly, it's very easy to sit there and forget. There's so many steps. It's so easy to forget. So, user error is prevalent when you're using ZBrush because there's so much shit to remember. It's so powerful. Okay, so all right. Well, yeah, I'll get used to it, Zofo. It's just kind of my left arm right now is really tired, so it's just I need to kind of like, which I've never really noticed. So I need to kind of make sure that I'm getting it set up. So I'm just trying to shift, find the right placement for my keyboard, and because how I'm sitting is how it was with my 21UX, so it was a little bit different. This one's actually kind of more in front of my monitor, so I'm almost looking around to kind of get where you guys are at, and then it's like my hand is resting in the middle where I was in the upper right hand corner before, so I have like this little Tommy Hilfiger blanket, whatever, that I just use as a cushion, so I'm trying to find it, but then I'm kind of shifted over completely from where I used to be, so I'm slowly trying to figure it out. And that's important because it's like if I don't figure that out, it's just going to kind of wear on my shoulder, and so I've got to pay attention to it. So I'll get there, but it will take a little bit. Just like I said, I used to not model with my pen. It took a bit, but I'm glad I finally went through it. Okay, so let me just add a little bit more details, and I'm going to kind of start to go to Polypaint here in a little bit. And I'm going to take out some of that extra noise. Okay. And all I'm doing is just using the damn standard brush to add some subtle hits and details and skin cracks that I was kind of doing here. And I'm just trying to figure out that forehead. Okay, so what I'm doing, guys, I'm trying to rest my eye. I'm trying to find something that will kind of give you a little bit of break. And that's why I kind of flatten that piece out. And I'm just trying to make it kind of a little interesting. Story, whatever. And then I'm going to add some flesh folds to kind of give it some weight. Okay. Okay. And once I do that, I'm going to probably give him a little bit more of a sharp nose section here. Define out that nose butt, so to speak. Give him a little bit more of a separation of the mouth. Again, I'm trying to give a little bit more of those details. And I'm going to want to make it look like this is, these cheekbones are kind of not necessarily sharp, but they're kind of like rocky pieces, right? So rocks have different edges to them, different sections. And when I go into my Polypaint, I'm going to probably add a little bit of that lore, you know what I mean? I want to kind of give some of that story and color to kind of show what's working, what's not. And okay, and let's use the inflat brush to kind of thicken up some of these folds and give them some weight. Okay, and bury that eye to define that upper eyelid. Okay. And since I did that, I'm probably going to bring this back. Okay. So let's take a look at some of this side piece here. I think I might kind of... Okay. I'm trying to define some of that directional change around the cheek. Almost kind of like I want to connect this piece with it. So let's see what that looks like. Now again, that might be too much. I might be kind of getting a little bit of you know, do I need to connect everything? No, not necessarily, but I want to try it. So maybe I'm just going to kind of flesh this out a little bit so it's a little bit heavier sack of flesh. And hell, who knows, maybe this is just slicing the flesh around coming up, because I was getting a little bit too much of the flat, so I want to kind of bring some weight, some flesh, because I have flat here in the bones and the horns, and so I want to kind of just define some more of that nice organic folds that are kind of leading your way. Okay. And then I can pick it back up and to where it's kind of separating the ear. Okay. And again, it might work, might not. I'm just testing it out, and then I'm going to take a look at it. Again, these, you know, you should take the time to try some of these different ideas you might have to see if they work or not. Okay, I think that works. And again, the color is going to kind of help from here. Now let's go back to just take a look at those ears. I'm going to go back down. Let me mask out this section of the ear real quickly, because what's happening is it's kind of getting lost by that horn. So I'm just going to pull it out. Okay. I want to be careful about how much cavity I have in there, but I want to kind of just give some interest to the back of the ear. You guys still with me? Okay. Lost some people. Okay. I think that helps. And you could just say, well, you know, what if the ear is like super, you know, you can start playing with this, you know, quickly. What I would probably do is just say mask, you know, flip the mask, and then you can use the move tool. You can just, you know, like if I want to go a little bit more cartoony, you can try that. I don't think I want to do that. Or you can just use the gizmo to kind of, you know, maybe shrink the ear, move the ear around if I want to see more of the head or the back of the neck. So you can try that. So these are quick things to kind of test out to actually to see what's going what's working. So take a second to try it. So I think that's good enough. So let's go back up in details and kind of going off that I Am Legend. I just want to make this a little bit bigger. Okay. And I'm just going to blend. Okay. So I think I have most of my details in there, so now let's just gonna add some of the alphas. And there's not, each one of these horns are about 2 mil. So that's good. He's about 3 mil. And then some of these other pieces, well, he's got 4 mil. Now, so on this piece right here, that shouldn't be 4 million. I could actually just do, but I was doing it to get some of that detail in here. I gotta save this really quickly. So what I would probably suggest, you know, whenever you're doing these, either Dynamesh, piece these together. So what I would do is I'd probably Dynamesh, you know, this one horn, this separate horn, anything that's separate that I would kind of keep. But and let me. Just adding a little bit more detail to the teeth, just to kind of show. And I can make those a little bit sharper if I want, just by pulling up. Okay. And if I want to bow them out a little bit, I can do that. So anybody have their Christmas tree up like I do? My wife kind of got some new ones, so she just threw them up. So it's not fully decorated. It will be by next time. Okay, so I'm going to hide those because they're kind of getting in the way. Whenever you have a different object, what happens is sometimes it just kind of gets confused and it pulls. You can also do the ghosting, the transparency, so you can actually see what you're working through. But I just would rather do solo so I can get them out of the way. And this is getting kind of hard because I have a lot of breakdown, but it should be good enough for now. Okay. Okay. Alright, so let's do some quick. I usually do standard. I'm just going to do the drag and I'm going to put on alpha real quickly. So you can do the, just going to import in the normal alphas that I've been doing. Again, I try to keep to the same alphas and stuff to show you guys that you really don't need to have anything special, you know, to kind of really create the creature. You could use the same alphas, pieces, that kind of stuff to give yourself different characters. Is just how you think about them. Okay, so I'm just going to use some of this Rick Baker alpha brush for the pores. I'm going to do it in certain areas that, you know, usually you would see it. Hold down Alt for the negative, that for the positive. Sometimes that will change. So as you see some of the stubble, just going to give a little bit more of that. And again, this is what you'd see on a human. maybe not to some of this degree, but you can, you know, it's that little nod of seeing the pores and bumps and stuff. And like if he's shaved, he's got a lot of rash from the you know, shaving or the, however you want to do it. That's good. Let's find another alpha real quickly. Okay, oops. That's probably some called leathery skin. See what that gives me. That might work on some of the little tiny details. And again, the or I could use them for the lips. But as you see right there, there's a lot of breakdown because I don't have enough geometry for that. So I might be able to bring in. So what I would normally do at this point in time, guys, is ZBrush after dynameshing some of this stuff, but since I cannot, due to the fact that it will shut down the stream or has the risk of it, I'm going to just skip it. If I ever go too much, you could always just go down a few levels. I've shown that before. If you don't want to take out so much, or go down one level below, and that will reduce some of those little details enough to kind of help. Let's go back to the bunky skin and intermix. And I'm going to go to this elephant skin that I really like. And if it's too high, like the intensity, knock down the intensity. Okay. I'm just going to bring in some of this rough skin, not too much here, so this even your intensity can change even if you're using the same alphas, because I want to bring in some subtleties of skin flow, but not major. And I just don't have enough detail from this, so bring it up just a little bit. Okay. So I'm just gonna do this in a few places. Careful not to the bone. But this is going to help me define some of the skin detail from the bone detail, or from the rocks, or whatever we decide that to be. You want to see a lot of the wrinkles within the ears, but I'm just going to do just a little, just to, like it starts. And since I kind of have this as like a hard bone, I'm not even really paying attention to it there. I've got so much breakdown in my eye that I can't even do it. Okay. So that's probably all the alphas I'm going to do. So let's go ahead and go to, let me save this real quickly. Hey Doug, yeah, no, this is where, yeah, I apologize that for this new Cintiq 22 HD. Is 1920 whatever 1080, and of course the OBS has that, so but I can't scale it to where I fill up that black spot, otherwise it, you know, the character will be super stretchy, so I was trying to keep it, but I wasn't able to kind of rearrange everything and figure it out, because I wanted to show some of what I do Spark and what Grim does, and of course the camera, so I've got to rearrange everything and figure it out, because I was hoping I could do like a 1600 by 1200 in that little space like I had it, but this new monitor doesn't allow me to do that, so I apologize for the scrunchiness. But thanks for pointing that out. I will figure it out. Yeah, I kind of just got this yesterday, so I was looking at this morning to get everything ready for the stream, and I was like, holy, okay, I can't do this. I couldn't get it to work, so, and I didn't have time to kind of look up into figuring out how to properly do this, or how to make it look. So hopefully it's not too bad for you guys. Okay, so I'm going to pick the color just like I normally would. I'm going to go to my different material that I like. I usually go to the ZBrush Illustrate Paint, okay, and then I'm going to turn on my RGB, turn off my Z-add. Right now my intensity is going to be fine, and I'm going to find the color. I'm going to stick to the normal. He's red. He's a demon, because once I start changing into the different colors, then it could take away into this guy's kind of like this fantasy deer, you know, demon kind of stuff, because I have that many horns and stuff. So I'm going to kind of try to find a good starting base. I go from darks to lights, and again, if I go to the different colors, you could actually see that will change quite a bit. He feels different whenever I'm going through each one of these. So I'm going to try to find where I bring in some of the color, make it dark enough, and if I go to the desaturated, he kind of goes completely out. So I'm going to bring in some of the brown. I'm going to start probably with a brown red, like an umber. I'm going to say color, and then fill the object. Okay, so you can see right up there it's snapped over to fill the object. Now I have a couple pieces that are part of the flesh that I want, so I'm going to say color fill object on this one. The horns now are the ones that are going to be separated. Now I am blending this horn to it. So if I didn't take this horn right here and I changed it with a different color, you're going to see it's going to be really stark and it's going to separate. So probably what I do, I'm just hitting C to grab that color again. I'm just going to say fill the object. So I'm going to fill the horns, I think, with all the same object color. Minus, well, hell, even the teeth. Let's just go ahead and just say fill everything except the eyeballs. Because what that's going to do is just going to make sure wherever it's connected, and since I'm intermixing a lot of these things, it's just going to help give some of that value hit, like I can blend to it. I'm going to go to a different, I usually like to start with like the alpha 31 or the alpha. I'm looking for a blend. This is a nice blend, but it's kind of it's still muted. So let's try the alpha 32, and I'm just going to kind of go up and over to the right a little bit, so because I want to bring in some of that color. I'm going to turn down my intensity and my RGB, my additions off, guys, and I'm just going to start making sure I'm on the right piece, and I'm going to start pulling out and start adding some of the color in those areas that I want to blend. Okay, and now I'm going to have to kind of jump over this piece at some point in time, whatever I'm going to be blending, and pull that in. For right now, I'm not really worried about it. I'm just getting the eyes in the main section here. And the same thing with this piece too, to pull it out. And this might seem like a little bit of a process, but what it does is it blends. It just allows you to kind of slowly get the character. And it's just something I personally find kind of methodic and nice, and because it's not super stark so fast that you're kind of like, oh wow, that's, you know. And this is where the blend is, so it depends on how much. If you want, if it's going a little too slow for you, if you're ever doing this kind of technique, just go ahead and turn up the intensity, and you can blend it together. So it's taking, because of the alpha, is taking the dark and leaving some of the dark pieces and blending with the lighter color. So it's blending those two together, and we'll slowly be doing this. Where is your matte cap located in Pixelogic's site? Skin or effect? I'm not too sure. Side effects. It's in the, I don't know. The one I'm using is the ZBrush Illustrate Paint. That's the one I like. So if you just do a quick Google search on ZBrush, you should be able to, like, he does more than one. He has a bit of them. So you might want to just look up and getting that series and figure it out. Got to be careful how many materials you have, because it kind of, that bogs down the computer a little bit when you're, and if you're not going to ever use it, then kind of gives you the too many choices, but choices are good as well. Okay, so I'm just gonna pull this all around. Okay. And yes, I do paint upside down a lot too. I kind of take a look. You want to move the character around. You want to take a look at different perspectives. Now, I've switched over to that one piece and I'm blending, but I'm going to kind of probably leave some of the tips dark on that skin, so I don't necessarily have to kind of go make it all the same solid color, and I can blend where I want. And okay, and I'm switching over to the other section here. This is now the horn, and so I'm going to do the same. I'm going to kind of like, maybe it's a transitional horn, and I could do the gradations. These horns right here that are kind of dark, I could bring in some of that color there where it blends. Maybe that's part of like the flesh. So all I'm doing is holding on Alt, guys, and I'm just jumping subtools. And as you see right there, oops, I hit Alt. If you see the two different colors, if you hold down Alt, you'll get the different color. So be careful. Okay, so now that I did that, I'm going to go again up and over to the right, because I'm slowly sticking in this red range, but I'm just trying to lighten. And I'm going to be a little bit more aware where I'm going to put this color, so it's not going to be everywhere. So now I'm just kind of, and you see right there, that's that material separation. It's okay, you can come back to it. And I said that I wanted this front to kind of probably be a little bit more towards like a burnt or a rock. So I'm going to kind of leave that as well. Pick up some of the highlights on the nose. And some of the face here. And by not coloring up in here, I'm kind of treating that like it's already like an ambient occlusion. It's kind of got some shading in there. Okay. As I'm trying to figure out this character, I'm trying to figure out the color schemes and seeing where I want to bring that up. Now he's, hey Sean, thanks for sharing, man. Yeah, if you guys, honestly, sharing with other people what you have is a great way about making new friends, whatever. And of course, it's always a nice thing to kind of do. But there's a lot of different materials. It's whatever you. The reason I like this material, because it actually has a nice little like blue hue to the rim. Just seems as it's nice and subtle. There's a couple different ones you can that he has in there. That's so sorry, just got a call. Okay, so let's bring some of this to the top of the head. Again, this is where most of the, I don't know, hell, maybe there's not sun, but you know what I mean? But we're intermixing. Now this could actually, where I can go down a little bit because I don't want to bring so much of the intensity. But as you can start to see by having those different layers, I'm starting to break up that skin. And you can kind of give some illusion of, he has like a weird skin pock or whatever. And again, I'm not really concerned with the back too much right now. Yeah, try to find, hopefully it doesn't send you in any bad sites. Trusting you. Okay. So let me jump back over. I have some of those. I like this little tip kind of sticking out. I could actually do where, blending just a little bit here. So as you can see right there, that color is kind of changing as it goes out. Let's bring it back to here. It's more of the flesh. So now I'm using those colors to separate. Let's go back to this ear. I didn't mean to miss some of this detail on the ear, so I'm highlighting. Okay. All right. It's not too bad. I think I'm still liking the color. Let's go up a little bit more. And I don't know if I'm going into pretty high saturation, so I might even start to change to where I can keep that same value range I had before, but I can bring in some different colors. So let's bring in a little bit more of the orange. And let's highlight this up just a little bit more. I might actually go to a different alpha. Let's try the alpha 20. And let's go down to 30. Make it a little bit more subtle. And so what I'm doing is I'm just using that to blend. It's a little more solid blend. So I'm getting more of that color than previously where it was breaking up. So I've got to be careful about how much I overdo it because I don't want to lose some of that nice varying detail that I had before. But I want to highlight certain parts of that. Honestly, Orange, I don't go through that many, and I'm not a big fan of that. Some of the different. This one actually is just the oldest plastic one, you know, because it's like having some of the different nubs that actually have that grating sound to make it feel like paper bothers the hell out of me. So it's like grating my ears and shit. So I have a tendency to just like throw it away. But I don't know. That's just me. I guess I got used to because I've had Wakems for a long time. Okay, so I'm doing a little larger sweeps to blend and to get some of the color. No, that's probably too much. I still want to kind of keep this dark. For the underneath of the neck. Let's bring out some highlights to the side of the cheeks here. And some of the ear. Okay. Okay. Okay, he's looking not too bad. Let's blend this in a little bit more. I think I forgot on one of the steps. I forgot to bring him in, bring in this section. Okay. Okay, let's detail out those eyes a little bit more because they are important to do it. So I'm going to go to the eyes. I'm on the eye level right here. You can tell that the darkness is on there. Let's go to material. Let's turn this to like a toy plastic and say color fill object. Okay. Then I'm going to go back off of that, go back to my ZBrush. I'm going to turn it to RGB and I'm going to go to a painting section here. So I'm going to grab some of the dark, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to paint it in. You can paint it all in dark like this and you can build back out. So let's say I just want to use that as my ambient occlusion. So now I'm going to kind of, because I want his eyes to be noticeable, but I want to kind of pull him back in there a little bit. So all I'm doing is I'm blending and I'm going back out. And I'm picking the highlight of the eye. And so this is my way of kind of doing the eyes to blend back in. So if you see right there, I kind of have like this little subtle eye kind of stuff where it looks like it's embedded because it already has that like nice little section of ambient occlusion. So once I have that, if I go, as you can see, that's how much my eye is seeing. Okay, so once I have that little area, I could, you know, come in here and define it out a little bit better. You could always hit shift and make sure you turn off the blend if you need a little bit smoother blend between those two colors. Okay, make sure you turn that back on if you don't need it. Okay, now when I'm doing this, once I have that eye section in there, he kind of looks like he has no eyes, iris, I guess you'd say. So it's going to be kind of, you know, he looks kind of drugged. So I need to give him an iris. Now, depending on how much you use, where you place it is going to define your character quite a bit. So I need to kind of find it. Like if I do the over here, like that one character is not going to be, so it has to be kind of perfect. If I have a tiny little iris like so. Now again, I'm dealing with, let me divide it up one more time, because the more polys I have, the more definite I can do. So, or a definition I can have. This might be kind of hard, because I don't know. Just by putting it up into it, kind of looks, I have Z add-on standard. Oh, thank you. Somehow that got back on. It's weird. And I don't know if I might be even a fan of having irises in there, or, you know, might even be black. If I really want to sit there, you know, if I don't want to deal with an iris. Let's go ahead and let's give them a fake. That's hard. Trying to bring in some of that color. Could just be like it's let's do this. Let's make him like Deadeye. Add like a little zombie glaucoma. So he sort of has that in there, but can't quite see his eye. I'm going to highlight this just a little bit. And so what I'm doing, guys, is I'm taking I'm just sweeping back and forth, and I'm seeing what parts I was successful, or if I like any certain direction. Like, I do like them with the eyes, I think, a little bit. I also like them without. I don't know. What do you guys think? With or without? Thank you, Pre-Jag. I appreciate it. Solera. What do you mean, Bish? What's Solera? Yellow, orange. Are you talking about the... I don't know the names of all the anatomy. Eyeball. That's what I call it. I should be better at that kind of stuff. So okay, I'll leave it for right there, because I think what I'm going to do is I need to have a few other pieces, color in there to kind of help me judge, and I think that's my problem. So let's go ahead and do the teeth. I'm on the teeth right now. Let's just paint in, and what I'm doing, the same thing I did with the eyes. I'm just taking in a dark color, and I'm going to blend in. Yeah, without is more demonic. So I think I agree. I'm going to go, and you could also, the cool thing, even though I jumped onto other things, I can still slip back. So let's just go back to where he's without it right now. So thank you, Bish. I appreciate it. The white stuff. So you learn everything every single day. Don't you guys just know I just BS? I'm just goofing around. I have no clue what I'm doing. So as I'm doing this, I'm going to just kind of slowly go back up. And I'm kind of just trying to bring out some of the highlights on the teeth, but I'm trying to fake out that ambient occlusion where it's meeting with the mouth. That's where the color kind of gets into it. Just kind of helps you go, and you can just easily go back. Now, by hitting the white of the highlight, what that is really is just the absence of, I mean, it's going back, it's just going to the straight of the material. So all I'm doing is I'm blending the color to that material. So when I go white, it's just the straight on ZBrush color. So I'm barely putting any kind of pressure on my tablet at the moment, and I'm just, because even though I have the 30 intensity, if I hold down straight, that's the full 30. That's still a lot. So instead of me just switching back and forth, I'm actually using pen pressure from the Cintiq to actually give myself a little bit more, to say I'm like at 5% of whatever color I'm using. So okay, so that helps a little bit. I might bring in a little bit more yellow, maybe yellow brown. Okay, that works. Any weird Al fans? What's Al? The texture of the skin. No, the texture, whatever level you're stuck at, Orig, is going to be the level you're at. So Polypaint is just putting vertex information, color to the vertex of that set polygon number. So if I that's why when you divide, then that's where it will go up. So if you take a look, if I'm on my character and I go down on my levels, you see how that Polypaint goes away. That's because each poly point right here will have a color associated with it. So the less you have, the less poly information you have to deal with it. The more vertex count poly hit, the more color information you can have per information. So, ow, gotta figure out how to set better. Okay, so let's finish that. I think that works a little bit better. So let's go to the horns. I think we're gonna bring in, just like the teeth, I'm gonna probably bring in some of that color to that. So let's go here. So I think I want to lighten up some of, so he's not all dark, and I could actually go back into being dark towards the tip if I want, but I'm going to kind of transition to make it more towards like a cow horn, just to give it some visual interest. And I could even turn to a different color because I haven't brought any color yet. So let me do that to the character. I'm going to probably bring in some blues to cool down some of the areas of here. So now that I have that color, I'm going to probably bring in some of the purples, because I want to kind of give it that smoky, rock information that I was talking about, but not be, hey, this is just black, so it's rock. So I'm just kind of tinging some of this color into certain areas. I can pull it back if I get too much, but I'm just trying to bring in a little bit of color variation to it. Maybe bring into some of the tip and the areas of depth. Because what this does, it just allows you to kind of think of this as just like the skin, human, where you have like the cools and the greens and everything kind of coming into it. I'm doing that sort of with the demon, but I'm adding some different color than it'd be normal, because then that's, you know, because who's to say what a demon, the underneath layer, the subdermal layer, would have. So maybe he's got purplish blue blood running through him. Okay. So I'm going to use this on the, I'm switching over to a different subtool. Hey Roy, how's it going? Not as cool as Ashley, no. I'm sorry. My wife thinks I'm cute, so that's all that matters. I'm good. Of course, she doesn't watch these shows. She just flips it to the end and sees what I do. It's like, ah, that's what you did today. Yay. Yeah, cow horns. Yes, there you go. Cow horns for the sculpt. So as I'm fleshing this out, getting some of the different color into it, as you can see, I'm trying to figure out some of the crevices so it's not just pure black. Now, once I have those, once I have that color into it, I can go back in and I can then add, I can go a little darker. I don't ever really go to true black, but if I want to even knock that back a little bit further, I have that color that I brought in to kind of help do the blend. And so, let's see if I want to bring in like a little bit of broken edges. I can bring in this alpha so you can actually see what I'm doing. I'm kind of bringing in some weird line work to do the blend. If that doesn't work, you can try to go with the bumpy skin. You can use the alphas to kind of do, well, let's go to the elephant skin. So I want to darken that down just a little bit, not too much. Okay. Yeah, bring it back up. It's kind of getting a little too... Alright, so I think what I need to do is to go even... I now need to go to my high pitches, because right now what's bothering me is this little line separation here. Sort of, because I want to blend these two together to make it one big cheek. So I've got to actually go into, back into sculpting maybe, to blend those out. So I want to turn off RGB to blend. Because I'm not really digging that little, because if I do my shift, then that's going to kind of blend out my color. I just want to blend out some of the detail here so I don't have the separation. Now I'm going to go back to my color, and I'm going to pick that color, and I'm going to blend that back a little bit more. Okay. It just was bothering me, so I wanted to kind of fix that because it just didn't seem to work as well. Okay, let's go to a higher. Oops. All right. So once I have that kind of to where I'm going to like it, I'm going to turn off my drag and I'm going to turn off my alpha. I'm going to go to standard. I'm going to knock it down just a little bit. Do you have any special poly painting for the subsurface texture? or do you just use the thickness map that you get from baking inside of the painter? Honestly, it's like when you... That's more for movies pre-drag than I actually use for games kind of thing. What he's saying, he's trying to... there's a subsurface map to kind of fake out the illusion of depth. I try to just do it in the diffuse. I mean, we don't have a lot of those tricks that you can kind of use. So I would probably rely on Painter if I was going to do that. Just create a subsurface, you know, quick skin bake if I was going to do that. It's unfortunately something that I don't get a chance to do a lot of. That's what we have to fake it. So, but I'm sure there's. I mean, I'd probably if I were you, I'd look up like Chris Costa's stuff and kind of see what he's doing, because he touches his realism and stuff is phenomenal. So that would kind of help. Whatever he does, I'd probably suggest just follow along. Okay, so what I'm going to do, guys, is now I'm just picking in color. I'm going to start highlighting some of these. Make sure I'm at the highest level. I'm just going to highlight out some of these details. No problem. Yeah, I kind of. I mean, this thing is like games, and I mean, I touched upon a few movie stuff, but nowhere to the level of. It's more of concepting the creatures. I don't get a lot of the tech, and the tech moves so much so fast, and there's so many different ways to do it. It's not even funny. So as you see, I'm kind of, by having that built up the layer though, pre-drag, is like I'm sort of kind of giving myself like a fake subsurface scattering. You know, some of the details of, you know, bringing in some of those purples to kind of make it look like there's skin underneath, and then pushing your eye to do it. By doing this also by the color, guys, I'm actually going to be, I'm adding in detail that might not be there in the sculpt, but, you know, I could either go back in and add that detail, or the color itself can kind of fake that out. So, like if I want to highlight this little section here, or just add extra lines that aren't there. So, I think, let me see, I know the answer may be no, but there's a way to translate that texture to polygons for 3D printing. Right now I'm using sculptures and it's kind of struggling with high poly counts. I've had problems with the sculptures too when you turn it into, I use, you know, when I did use sculptures, it's more for just kind of playing around, getting the idea, even though I haven't been really doing it for these demos, and then switching over to some of my techniques that I've been kind of showing. Alright, so I'm going to highlight. Sorry if I lose sense sometimes, guys. It's kind of hard to sculpt, talk, walk, chew, come. I gotta lose my train of thought. So I'm just going to highlight some of these areas that I want to fake out. And I could always knock back if necessary. And usually what I do is I'll do these highlights, and then I could just use like that alpha texture, or that, you know, something to blend in later. But I want to bring your attention to some of the folds and some of the, you know, like if I want to do some kind of weird veinage, if that's a word, you know, up around here to kind of lead your eye down, like this is his brow or whatever. Or I might just add a couple extra lines to make that part of his extra brow section. I'm going to highlight out his eyes just because they're inset there, but I want to bring your attention to where that's where they are at. And then I'm going to kind of do some detail work around here just to kind of, especially around the ear section, or that separates, to kind of give some visual interest. Okay. And even though I put these highlights in, I could, you know, blend them back out, and then that will probably help. But what I'm trying to do is just kind of give the illusion of skin wrinkles that I might not have on my sculpt, or I'm trying to do some interesting detail, like I might want to pick up these lips just a little bit. And I'm playing with pen pressure, guys, at the same time as I'm laying this down, so I'm not... Be very aware of that. Don't just lay down, be very heavy-handed, you know. You need to kind of, even though I have one detail level on my RGB, I'm not really liking some of those. I'm being very careful of switching up. My textures and stuff. So I'm going to, I just flipped to that different subtool. I'm just going to add some extra like skin wrinkles and breakups, scratches or whatever to kind of hide. Okay. I'm coming back in and I'm using that highlight to kind of show there's some separation, some skin folds that are flopping back and forth over top of things. Okay. Okay. Alright, so let's start playing with some of the, bringing it up here. And bringing some of that color into that purple to help push it back and make it look like it's part of the skin, but I have some of that underneath. This is the faking of the subsurface scattering, you know what I mean, like breaking up, like it looks like there's a slight film or skin that's going over top of it, you know, and then when you do the highlights, then it's kind of, those are the areas that pop your eye but lead you to believe that there's depth. Okay. Alright. Alright, here, and now these like little, I'll go back to this and make some like little rock hits, the black here in a second. I just gotta kind of, even though you don't necessarily, we're not going to see the back here, I'm just kind of still finishing out my thought and bringing my illusion. It doesn't take, I'm not going to take super long to add some of this, but I'm just grabbing some of this color, I'm grabbing some of the red, and I'm just blending that a little bit better. Okay. Okay, let's go back to the horns. Thank you, Deeb. I appreciate it. Now, I brought in those highlights. I still need to go, I think even before I do that, I'm going to go more towards orange highlight. I'm going to bring in a little bit more towards a flesh tone, just over top of some of these areas. Let's see how that looks. Because I said I want to bring in some realism to it. So even though I've done that detail underneath, because I've got a lot of busyness going on, so I'm trying to knock back a little bit of it. And what I need to do is blend in some of that skin to kind of really reduce some of the details that I have going on, because I've got a lot of lines and busy, so I need to flatten out a few areas with color as well. And I might even go a little bit more to the gray. He's just getting too... Color needs to blend, have some detail into it, but blend still to kind of not make them look... I'm not really sure about... That nose, this little section right here is bothering me. I don't know what it is. I think it's just part of the color that I need to... It didn't bother me so much when it was part of my nose, like in the sculpt. So it's bothering me because I think it's just too... I need to knock it back a little bit. So I think that's what it was. It was just kind of, I need to blend it back a little bit, knock, and then, you know, because it's too much. Okay, so I'm going to pick back up that color. I'm just going to flesh out some more of the side here. Just to, and then highlight this front. Now I have those, the lines and stuff, guys, underneath. You can still see them, and they're subtle, and that's what I'm looking for. I just want to have, I did those lines to just bring in some subtlety. And what I'm trying to do is just bring, I have the red, he still has the red underneath him, but I'm kind of bringing a little bit more of that flesh tone to blend with this elephant alpha to kind of pull it all together. So all those colors, this is the subdermal layer. I'm kind of blending the top skin over top. That makes sense. I'm blending it together to kind of pull it all together. So all those colors, all that, you know, some of that stuff that I was just showing you will blend and still be there, but it has that uniform color over top of everything that kind of says, you know, this belongs to the same object, same character. So once I go back into here, so you see some of the lines there. And then this is pretty high, like a pretty good highlight, because, you know, I want you to focus on the forehead here. So I'm making the highlight, this value, come forward and pushing that back to let you know that this is flesh starting to creep over top. Okay, and I've gone a little bit too... I think the thing is... Now that I have this color back, I'm going to try a couple different things, guys. I'm going to... He feels very... Maybe I got to push this back even more. Maybe pull that down. And I don't want to go... I want to push, pull around. I want to kind of... see what's going to work, because just some things that were kind of bothering me. So, and I think I'm using the move tool, guys, to kind of to pull out in space. Okay. Okay, that feels better to me. So just because I was done with the sculpting, I came back to it for a reason, because it just was bothering me. So if it's bothering you, don't let it go. Try to figure it out. Okay, and I'm going to go to a little bit higher, and I'm almost going to go to like a white, and I'm going to really define out some of those. So what I'm doing is I'm popping them to space. So this is like where I'm like, okay, I want you to look here. I want to pick up the nose bridge just a little bit. Okay. So now let's go to the horns. Thanks, pre-drag. Yeah, I'm kind of trying to show you guys that you could do a whole bunch of different levels and you could play with stuff, but I have a tendency to just kind of, I don't want to kind of have too many layers, figure it out where I'm at, and just, and again, I'm exploring, so you know, you just want to kind of have fun with it, try to figure out what your design is. Now, if I really like this character, then I could sit there and go, okay, I'm going to take it to final. I would go back, I would define out the different areas a lot more, and I would kind of like concentrate on at that point in time. And then this is where, you know, I'm just exploring. It's 3:30, so I've been at this 2.5 hours. So this is what I would consider just like, you know, just, I mean, I'm going into a little bit more detail than I normally would, but I just wanted to show you guys some of the different techniques. Okay, so I'm gonna probably take it and make the horns just a little bit darker. Okay. Sometimes you have to double check to see which horns you're on. And then I'm going to, I'm picking the color and I'm just going up, and I'm going to kind of use that to highlight a few of these different edges. I'm not going to go into super detail on the horns, but I'm going to kind of bring out some of the details that I want. Is 3D modeling and sculpting the same thing, or are they different? Well, usually when they say 3D modeling, yeah, more towards what pre-drag's kind of saying, more like Max, Maya, that kind of stuff, Modo. This is where they're kind of like sculpting, where it becomes more traditional, where I'd say this feels like, you know, you have a ball, it's like mud, and you just kind of make something from it. It's a lot more translatable towards, you know, traditional, you know. I feel like I model in Max, where it's like I kind of am restricted to vertices in space, and then this is where this is like fun, and I just can kind of rely on my traditional skill, so where I just kind of am sculpting and pushing and pulling. So that's usually how it's defined. Yeah, Z modeler, that kind of stuff is towards where are you modeling. Okay, so I'm just highlighting a few of those details. I can do scratches. I could also go back here, guys, and just grab, you know, like the leatherly skin, turn up the, if I want to do scratches and stuff pretty quickly. So what I'm doing is, you can turn up this and, you know, use different alphas. Like this is supposed to be for a face, but I can add some fake, you know, scratches or, you know, things to it pretty quickly. If I want to add detail while I'm painting, I could just turn on the Z add, you know, and bring in some of those extra details, like the scratches, and, you know, to fake out that stuff pretty quickly. I usually do not sculpt at the same time that I'm painting. That's just me. You're welcome to do it. Depends on what you just feel comfortable with. So this is just, you could use alphas just to get some extra detail. You know, so let's go to here. And what I'm doing is I'm holding down Alt and I'm mixing in the black with these to, you know, really make it dark. And I'm just bringing in some of that alpha for detail. Okay. Sculpting, you can create a lot more higher depth models, more organic looking. It's honestly, it's like when you're sculpting like this, it's just you're not really restricted. Depends on your engine that you're using, or like the computer you have. You can do quite a bit, but Max, ZBrush handles things a lot better than a lot of the programs I've seen. So, like usually whenever I bring something in Max, the high poly, whatever I do, like if I was going to bring this into Max and I decimate it, if I brought it in at the 15 million, Max would actually have conniptions. It wouldn't be that easy to deal with it. So, so it just depends on. So ZBrush handles. Each program has its benefits. You just got to kind of know which ones are you needed to use it for. So, I try to use that specific engine or the program, whatever, for that specific thing. I'm a Max guy, and that's what I learned on. But if I was going to be an animator, I would learn Maya, because that's definitely a lot more for animation. Even Max can do it, but you also go with where the a lot of the people are using it. Okay, so what I was doing is I'm just bringing in some color. I'm just making some blends now. I'm going to darken them all down. Now that I put those details into it, I'm just going to darken these down just a little bit. So put in that detail just to blend. It's still there. I'm just knocking it back. So, okay. Now I have some detail on this horn right here that I might try to bring a little bit of detail into, but not much, because I think he's looking fairly good. But you could also take a look to where you're kind of, you know, do I want that really black where it hits, or do I want to add to where it gets a little bit lighter? Use that elephant 62. So what I'm trying to do, guys, is I'm just bringing in some value. So I'm looking at, like, how do I like the horns darker, or do I want them a little bit more to their white? You know, almost like zebra horns. I don't know, what do you guys like, the more towards the white or the dark? Or it's really depending on where direction you want to go to. If you're going to games, movies, East Coast, West Coast, I mean, everybody has a tendency to use different things. Europe compared to US, I mean, it's just like it's all over the place. Usually games is Max Maya, even though movies touch upon the same thing. Moto is also coming into where it's a really nice program to use for modeling. Those are the three major ones. It's kind of it's really in whatever direction you want to go towards. So everybody's liking the white? Okay, so let's go a little bit more towards the white. Okay. So he's got kind of like a zebra, and I'm using the alpha and I'm turning it around, guys, just to kind of blend it. Okay. Alright, I think that's pretty good. I agree. So now I'm going to kind of try to bring in, since I have a little bit of that white in there, I'm going to see about bringing in some of that white highlights as well. Because what I want to do is, I'm making a connection between the two. So let's say, I mean, I could bring in some of the color skin to some variation, but I don't think I need to go too too much, but I want to bring in just a little bit. Okay, so now, all right, so if we went white, let's pick up some of the colors from this. I'm going to turn this off. So I'm going to pick up some of the rocks. So what I want to do is I'm going to take whatever horn I have, the dark, to it, and I'm going to use, because I want to define out some of this. Okay. Because again, this is the base that I'm using. And then let's pick a secondary, like another color that's going to be built up on top. So what I'm trying to do is just kind of build up some of these fake rock pieces, but think of this, maybe these might be the tiny little horns that are kind of starting to pop, you know what I mean, through his skin. So he's already got, remember what I said, guys, a lot of art is just making some BS story. Every single character should have story, okay? And when you kind of have that story, you're just kind of, it ties it in together, and makes it more believable. At least a lot of the great characters that, you know, that you really rely on. So that's all we're trying to do. So right now that will tie that in, so where all of a sudden that looks like those are horns that are coming, or whatever, or their teeth, or whatever to the story. It just makes it a little bit more believable. I'm just going to knock in some shadows. Because again, this is to add a little bit more realistic. Okay. So once we have those, I mean, hell, we could even do like where he's like a, if he's like a zebra, I don't know if we want to add stripes. We don't necessarily have to add stripes, but let's try it out. Let's just see to finish him off. He is a zebra horned demon, whatever. That's a really super fine wrinkles. That's not what I want. So right now I'm just going through my alphas, just trying a few different ones. Look at my animal skin. So again, your intensity, if you want it to be more stripes, you just got to bring it up to where, you know. Now this is supposed to be for the fine alphas that kind of look like it's, so this is where maybe I might even do an additive and bring it up to where it's been scratched, or hell, if you do like a red color, you know, and you make it to where it's been cut in. Okay, not elf, not that. So you can do some scratches across this one, or okay. So you can just add a few of these details to kind of make it look like it's, I mean, who knows, part of the, didn't mean to do that. Hey, he's got a mustache. That didn't work. Okay. Again, who knows? I'm making this shit up. So let's go ahead and save. It's very important to save. I'm going to pose this sucker. Yeah, pre-drag makes it, like when I go on, and I'll probably, I mean, I don't know if you guys are getting bored or it's just me doing the heads. The reason I'm just doing heads and just showing you these guys the process is because it's in and out, a couple hours, 3 hours max, whatever, to kind of let you guys have fun playing with it, because that's kind of loosening up your skill. you know, relaxing. Like when I was at Disney, we had to draw like 50 circles, and you know, before we even started drawing, to loosen you up to get into the flow. That's what I was thinking these would be, more just like fun projects. If you guys are interested, if you want me to kind of carry this character, you know, carry another character from start to finish, where he's, you know, neck down or whatever as well, just let me know, and then I'll just kind of carry it. And when I do that, then you know, if I finish a character in the story, then of course I would create a lot of the scenes. So I don't know if you've seen some of my characters, I would create an environment and where they're going to be. As Prejag was kind of saying, it's the story that's kind of grounding the character into its world. So like if those jackals, that one where I had it where they were taking down a big slug, you know, I had one of the jackals in the back eating like a honeycomb of all the babies and stuff, and I made the environment for ZBrush beta called Alien Jungle. It was to tie that into the world, to give it a scene, like where this is the creature, this is where I believe it's going to be. Even though I'm not an environment guy, I don't really like environments, it tells me, it helps tell the story of where they might belong towards. Okay, so let's do this. I just saved. I'm going to do something just to check really quickly. I'm going to go to all low, and I'm just going to take a look. The reason I'm doing all low is just to make sure this is all set up. This right here, this piece, is, you know, 261,000, not too bad. That's fine, because I'm going to pose this guy really quickly. So I'm just going to go say all high back just to pull it into it. And the reason I'm doing that is if you have something that is like 8 million polys or whatever, and you go to pose it, it's just going to make it a lot more difficult. So now that I've saved this guy, let me check my draw, my angle. I think to me he's just a little more too thick, so I'm just going to bring him in just a little. Because by adding those stripes, he feels faster to me, almost like a cheetah, or, you know, when I said zebra, speed, so it almost looks like he's kind of going. So I'm just subtle. Bringing in the jaw a little bit more, and I'm sweeping it back out, guys, just because I'm going to emphasize a little bit more of this point. Okay. And then now that I did that, I'm going to do damn standard, and I'm just going to kind of sweep it around, make it look like it's got a little bit more of a turn off RGB. I'm just adding a little bit more depth to the skin folds, or where they sit. So I'm just helping it with geometry a little bit. Okay. Oops. Missed that one. Alright. So let me say that again since I messed with it. Okay, yeah, I'll do that. I think for the next couple, I'll try to do you know, episode or two, just to sit there and take it from start to finish on a character, you know, full body. Like now that I have this head, like what do you guys envision? You know, like I have an idea of what the body will look like now that I've created the head. That's usually how I go on my characters. So I'll probably next episode I'll probably do like a creature head, you know, down to the neck, and then I'll pick it up in the next episode. I'll finish it out. And with poly painting, that kind of stuff, because I should be able to, you know, once I get, if it goes well, then I'll do that, and then maybe if I don't get to the scene, then the third episode I'll create a scene, and then I'll place it in there, and, you know, make it like it's a like a little environment piece. Okay, so now that I have that, let me go to, I'm going to pose it. I like posing, actually, guys, just really quickly. If you see I don't pose that much, meaning I just move it up and down, it's like, you know, wondering, is that a bird, is it a plane, whatever, Superman, that kind of shit. Just to give the character a little bit more of an interest, because as you're taking a look at this, it's not, it has some life to it, but it's not alive yet. So to do this, and I know that the writing screen is kind of in front sometimes over where I'm at, so I'm just going to see plugin. I'm going to go down to Transpose Master, and I'm going to click on T-Pose Mesh. What that is going to do is going to take a look at all your different subtools, bring it to its lowest derivative. So you want to make sure that you are, this is why I was double checking to make sure I'm all kind of good and it wasn't super happy. I was fine with all the subtools, because if it's so low, then it's going to, I mean so high, then it's going to take a lot to move it. So this is how you pose a lot of your stuff pretty quickly. This is great for clients or whatever, to kind of give somebody looking at your work, to make it feel like it's part of, you know, something that's alive. It's not just a T-pose and it's still and it's boring. So I'm just going to go ahead and just grab, I'm going to change, holding down Control, I'm going to click into up into the mask. As you see, it goes from the standard brush to the masking, and I'm going to go to Mask Lasso. And what I do is I will just grab and lasso out to about just the neck, because what I'm trying to do is I'm going to keep the neck stationary, and the base, so I'm going to keep this to where it's going to stay solid, and then the neck and thing are going to change. But right now I'm going to grab that, blend it, and then I'm going to, as you see right here, I'm going to transition. So I want the neck to move. If the head is masked and I start to kind of move, I'm going to just be moving the neck. So I could sit there and go, well, what does it look like if he's super tall, like he's a giraffe? You know, fine, I can do that. You're like, what's up? And then if I go back to T-pose, it would translate everything else. But I also want to make sure that the symmetry is either going to be on or off, depending on what I'm going to do. If I hold down Control and I click on the object, it's going to blend. If I hold down Alt and click on it, it's going to, Shift, okay. And I'm going to go to Move, and the Move tool is off somewhere if you get lost. You could also just do where you can hold down Alt and pull up on that object. It's set up in space, but I'm going to actually turn. I'm using the outer gizmo to rotate a little bit to treat it like it's a neck piece, okay? Now with symmetry on, if I start to twist, it's going to cause an issue. So I want to make this asymmetrical, because I'm going away from symmetry to asymmetry. So I'm going to turn off the symmetry, make sure you can move, and you'll actually see just one red dot. That's how you can kind of tell. And this doesn't have to be anywhere particular on the neck, but just somewhere to where it's just where you want to turn, okay? Like, so if I move it up to here, as you notice right there, it starts to collapse. So I'm going to be somewhere within the middle of the neck, and to start to bend. I probably will just slightly turn left like I normally do. He's just going to be kind of looking. It doesn't have to be major turn. It doesn't have to be like what's behind me kind of shit. It's just you do want to have some asymmetry, some general, to make it look like it's alive. It has some kind of motion towards it. You could also, to where when it's in this form, I could actually, now that everything is combined together, I can actually grab all these pieces together and raise the eye up just a little bit if I want, or I can turn the jaw a little bit, like he's, you know, you got to be careful how much it's going to go, because you can really kind of twist it, but you can add just some general subtleties, like if you just want some slight turn into it. And I'm not doing much. That's kind of, you know, the way to do it. And then if you want to blend down the neck, while you're in this form, just go ahead and keep hitting Control and clicking on the object. That way you can not do scale. You can slowly bring that down lower into the neck muscles and stuff like that. So it's not just like you come up and it's just twisting off of one angle. It's a blend. So this is how I usually just take this to blend slightly, and you can just kind of Control again, and I'm going down that object to blend a little bit more. So that way it starts to grab some of the neck, some of the turn. But if I want to emphasize just a little bit more, I could actually come in here and start to twist the neck or turn it just a little bit. I could actually add some weight or turn to the head. I could go back into and sculpt up a little bit more extra detail. I can actually bring like in a little bit of sculpted form, like maybe the neck starts to have like a little bit of cut. I could also do this, you know, worry about once I get that posed to come back in here and add that layer but it's depending on what you want to do. You can test it out. So when he's kind of turning his neck, I'm going to bring this back here. You see you got the... Okay. So once you're happy with the pose, and again, this is all solid, horns are solid, so you probably don't want to mess with it. But I could honestly go, you know, one side's a little bit more, you know, I could do asymmetry and make it really swash and stretch, or you know, you can mess with it, and you can make copies of these and just, you know, try it again if you want. If I really want to see, that will translate to that pose. So whatever I do will affect it. I think I'm fine with that design. So once I'm set, I'm going to go back up to Z plugin again. I'm going to go down to Transpose Master yet again, and I'm going to hit T-Pose to Subtools to take it from the transposed combined to split back into all the subtools. Sometimes this doesn't work, guys. That's why you always want to save before you ever try this. Sometimes you will have one subtool that might have some kind of issue that will be corrupted and will screw up everything else. Polypaint should all be on there. So it's taking, snapping every one of my subtools that I had in order. You saw right there, I have an issue right, something came up to, let's find out which one, horns, horn. Okay, so some of my horns messed up. Again, this is where we might have to do this yet again, or you can take a look at the horns and you can actually see yeah, they're pretty, it could be the fact that they were masked. So let's go back, let's load back in that tool. Okay. I'm going to go down to that subtool. I'm going to turn off my Polypaint. This is the issue right here. Okay. So remember how I said when they kind of intermix, I accidentally got them combined here. So I'm going to cut them apart. I'm going to delete hidden. Once I go down to the lowest level, delete hidden. Okay, if I come back up, should be fine. It's not pretty. I still have my Polypaint, which I want to double check on here. Okay, so this is where I can't quite see. So let me do this. I'll do this instead of doing that. I'm going to go to here, mask pen, and I'm just going to mask out this issue, turn off my ghost and transparency. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to make sure I'm just grabbing, I'm masking out. So you can use the mask to create your polygroups, and so that's what I'm doing. Okay, and again, this is just, I allowed that to happen. I made a mistake, so I need to do, yeah, my dog is snoring, side effects. he just stopped. Go down to polygroups, below deformation, and just say group masked. And so what that is going to do is just going to separate those. And then I should be able to go to here and say split. Oh, hold on a second. Okay. Wake up, Risa. And then I should be able to go here and say, wow, how come that didn't take? Group masked. Okay, thank you. That's why I was. There was a couple of polygroups. So, say group visible. Group visible. There were some issues within here. There was a couple of polygroups already. So that's how come I cannot split. So once I'm set, I'm going to come back and I'm going to say group split. And okay, this is the piece I want. Still has some issues underneath there. This is the piece that was causing me error, so I'm going to delete that. Let's go ahead and take a look at this again. Oops. Okay. Now I could also do Dynamesh. I'm really worried about it because trying to grab those one edges that take out. Good. All right, that's good enough. Again, this is a messy, guys. I would Dynamesh this probably and kind of go back and mess with this again. But I'm just trying to keep. I don't like to go through the Dynamesh remeshing because it makes the string kind of screw up. Okay, so I have. This should be all high. I don't see any kind of. I grabbed all those ones. It should be good. So if I look at the of this, okay, so it's split. That's split. Good. Okay. Tool. Save as. Let me just save another one. Yeah, no, it's actually. I'm surprised the dogs aren't freaking out like last time. So they seem to be doing a little bit better. Okay, so then I'm going to go to Z plugin, T-pose mesh. I'm going to do this really quick. Okay, T-pose mesh, the same thing, guys. Lasso. Okay, move. Gizmos below. Hold down Alt. Change. Make sure asymmetry is on. Slowly turn up. About. Gonna control the blend down the neck. Turn it just slightly more and up. Okay. And what I do, I just did some subtle lift here. Turn there. Okay. And then I did like, usually, like I said, I don't do this, but I just want to show you guys what it's like when you kind of add just a little bit of these. So let's say if I'm just kind of getting some fat roll up of here, kind of a turn. Okay. Should be good. Z plugin, transpose, T-pose mesh. Let's actually see. It's happened to me before pre-drag. It's kind of weird. Sometimes it kind of happens. And what I would normally do is I would actually not. Man. Okay. So what I would normally do is, because some things are, these horns are getting really screwed up, is this is the good horn. This is the horn that's really messing up, along with these. It's getting lost. So let's go back to I'm going to do this really quickly. Okay, these horns are messing up. So what I need to do is I just need to, and what's happening is because we deleted them and separated them, and the vertices are pretty much staying stuck where they're at. So so I'm going to come down here. Let's make a clone of this horn. I'm going to make a duplicate of this horn. I'm going to lower the res down and delete the lower, delete higher, whatever, just to get it down low enough. and I'm just going to do Dynamesh. Okay. I'm just going to get rid of that sucker entirely. Okay. By itself. Split hidden. Okay, I'm just going to delete that one side. I have this by itself, and I can see the gizmo is kind of funky. That's why it's throwing me off as well. So I think there was just some issues with this. I'm going to Dynamesh this sucker down. Let's do 512 or 612 is fine. Okay. You see there's some issues right here. I think there was some hidden stuff it still wasn't seeing. So I'm just going to go ahead and Dynamesh again. I'm going to go down to ZBrush. ZBrush. Okay, it's good enough. Looks clean. Turn this back on. Okay. This is also going to have the Polypaint on. So when I do the Polypaint, I'm going to project. I want to have the Polypaint on as well. So I'm just going to say project. It's going to ask me, and I'm going up, and I'm dividing. I'm not going to go ridiculous, guys. I'm just going to kind of just grab some of it. Hit solo. As you can see, that's probably good enough. And you see right there, that's my new horn. This should be good now. So I'm going to go back to my object here. I'm going to, if you append it, it's going to go to the bottom. I'm just going to insert that one piece, the ram horn, right underneath. Okay. Did not mean to do that. I meant to do Subtool Master, Mirror, and then I'm going to just merge in. Okay, good. It's going to go through. It has the Polypaint. Okay. This is the bad horn. This is the good horn. I'm going to just delete that sucker out. This is the horn that was causing me problems as well, right? So I'm going to go to here, and the reason I'm cloning is just because I want to have a fresh one where I'm seeing. Before I do this, let's just go ahead and, well, here, duplicate. Okay, make sure you turn off the top so you can actually see what's going on, because sometimes you get confused and be like, oh, why is that not working? Delete hidden. Go to Dynamesh, same thing. All I'm doing, guys, is just trying to clean this sucker up. And if you have some of those issues where those vertices are kind of stuck, you can sometimes smooth them out and move them. But man, it's just kind of, it's a problem. So usually I just always do this where I clean this up. Dynamesh. Okay, there's a mask that was kind of, I think that's what might have been there too. I didn't remember seeing a mask on that. If you have any of these little pieces like this, just go ahead and try to grab them. This is the piece that was probably giving me crap. That little thing right there. Yep. And then ZBrush. Bring that back on. Turn on your Polypaint. And then project. And then go up a couple levels. Okay. Go back to your ram horn. Let's go ahead and insert a secondary ram horn. Should be in the same placement. Did I place it? Sorry. Let's make sure I got the right one. Ah. Okay, this is my new piece right here. Okay. Subtool Master, Mirror. Okay. That should be my good one. That's my old one. Delete it. Okay. Alright. All my Polypaint's still there. But a tool. Save as. I'm making another piece over top just in case something's got corrupted. This will work, I promise. If it doesn't, damn it. T-pose this mesh. It's bring it all back down because I had those already kind of set up. Good. Okay. You've seen this process before. If anything, you're getting kind of used to it. Okay, asymmetry's off. Up, over, blend, 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 blend. Okay. All right, good, done. Work. See those horns come in? Good, okay. So that one issue by me not being very careful about when I was taking those two pieces and they kind of crisscrossed and connected, that and I didn't clean it up at that point in time, has caused me a little bit of issues. But that's one way to kind of do it. Delete out those Dynamesh, recreate, ZBrush, project. That way it's kind of cleaning up that one piece and just saying everything's kind of good. So now that I have that, this is kind of where we're at. So let me go ahead and take a snapshot of some of these guys. And I don't know if I have that original head. I don't. So let me grab that guy just to show what the original head looked like that I started from. So we went from that to that. So I think that's good for today's episode, guys. If you have any kind of questions, but as you saw, kind of like we went over a couple different things, VDMs, kitbash, playing around. Again, once you kind of, this is just a concept, so once you're kind of happy with some of the direction, then I would go back and I would clean up things and piece things together, going the same process that I usually kind of do to show you. This is more just for exploration, you know what I mean? It's sort of like, you know, I want to see what's working, what's not. I can still go back to take a look at this guy a couple days later and go, okay, maybe try something else. Hey Slinky, how's it going? We're just finishing up, so hopefully you can catch the episode. Go ahead. And that's the meaning of life, Slinky. Thanks for joining. If you guys have any questions, drop me a line any kind of time. Let me know. At what point, honestly, Slinky, I usually don't break symmetry until like I'm posing, just towards the end. I have a tendency to kind of stick him, and I think it's more towards my game thing, that it's just like everything has to be on a T pose and, you know, symmetrical. So it kind of just allows me to kind of, you know, stick to that. And you can do it to where you actually have it up in your transform. You could use posable symmetry, so I can set it up initially T-pose and I can start posing. And then you have that posable symmetry, but where you can paint on this finger that might be over here and this finger's over here, and they're supposed to kind of, you know, do exactly the same thing. Sometimes it loses it though, so I'm kind of like hesitant to do that. So usually I don't touch asymmetry until the end when I'm posing, just for fun. But usually, like games as well, you're kind of stuck to, you mirror, you try to, you know, utilize as much UV space, so there's a lot of things. I have had a lot of people ask me about the game stuff more. I might be looking into doing some more Twitch streams. I've got to figure that out. So if anybody's really good at Twitch, drop me a line, let me know how to walk through it, because I'm kind of a noob to that stuff. So yes, Linky, this is my 13th episode, so you guys are welcome to go back. Please visit, comment or whatever. I've gone over quite a bit, changing from aliens to a lot of different stuff. As I said, I'll start thinking about a full character and probably start creating that and do a couple episodes on that to kind of go through the process of it, because it's pretty much the same thing. Heads are the main thing I start with always, though, because it like I said, it gives me a picture of what the rest of the body is going to look like, and the story, and whatever story I'm bringing into the character will actually kind of carry over into the body. Because again, consistency, and to make sure it feels natural and all together. So, but I appreciate you guys joining today. It means a lot. And drop me a line anytime. You guys know at the bottom, I have all my information, my websites I showed you at the beginning. You can always find that information at the beginning of the videos. So, all right. Have a great weekend, guys. Thanks much, and take care. Appreciate it.